officers decide how much money to loan a given customer while considering complex issues of risk and reward. Others are designed to help those who provide technical support by telephone. The systems guide the user through a set of diagnostic questions leading to probable solutions. Still, other performance support systems walk the user through the process of creating a business plan, providing examples of each section on request. A product called Idea Fisher contains a pool of thousands of concepts that can be applied to the naming of products. Now, in all these cases, a performance support tool can be turned into an environment for learning. By providing such tools to trainees and giving them real, or at least realistic, tasks to perform, you would be creating a system that adapts itself to the needs and abilities of the learner, carrying them quickly or slowly towards genuine expertise. To summarize, we spent the last half hour addressing these two questions. How have computers been used traditionally in training, and what new forms of CBT are coming into use? We described the traditional use of CBT as a way of transferring organized knowledge efficiently to the learner, and noted that this use of technology is particularly appropriate when what you're teaching is simple and stable. We contrasted this with another approach called constructivism, which deliberately withholds some information in order to put more of the responsibility for organizing the data on the shoulders of the learners themselves. This approach is appropriate when the content is ambiguous, complex, changing, or open to multiple interpretations. It's more likely to lead to self-directed learning and the ability to respond well to new situations after the course is over. We then described three new forms of educational computer use which are inspired by constructivism: learner use of authoring tools, constructivist simulations, and performance support tools. Good teaching is good teaching, whether it involves the use of computers or not. It's important not to limit our imaginations to the traditional technology uses in training. As you think about ways to incorporate technology into your plans, think first about the moments of excellent teaching and learning you've experienced in the past. What made it work well? What was unique about the materials, the teacher, or you at that time? Once you've identified those factors, only then will you be ready to think about replicating that experience with the help of technology. As the computers available to us become still cheaper and more powerful, it should be possible to make those excellent experiences happen more often. With any luck, we can all become better teachers and learners.
Thank you. Many people still remember the first generation of educational telecommunication and the problems of realistic satellite education in India or community radio in Colombia. Often the technology was inadequate to the task, too many glitches and blackouts, and the users were bewildered by the expectations. The technology and its potential were running away from human uses. Technology need not appear to be Big Brother, threatening to overwhelm with centrally controlled machines the autonomy and freedom of people and cultures. The reverse is now possible. Systems can be designed that empower the learner, that decentralize control to bring out the best in everyone. Technology is not a tool for neocolonialism and domination. It is an instrument to ensure that businesses, governments, and schools are responsive to the larger environment. Through telecommunications, decision makers can hear and see the real needs and wants of people. They can adjust to changing circumstances. They can heed the early warning signs of conflict or disagreement. The Open University in Great Britain has been quite successful using television to transmit courses, but then employing many local learning centers where students come together with a tutor to discuss the course materials and receive feedback on their student assignments. Large-scale production is balanced by local and personal interaction in small groups. We now invite participants at our many satellite downlink sites to offer us questions and comments. You may direct questions to any of our three panelists or to the panel in general. What do you want to know about the state of the art and applications of modern instructional technology? Please call or fax us now at the numbers you see on your screen. We have a first question on the phone line from Guadalajara, the Universidad de Guadalajara, Guadalajara, Jalisco. Welcome.
Education. Bienvenido. Hable, por favor. This is the Division of Open Education, Distance Education. The question is, although it is true that the quality of education is going to be favorably impacted with the use of these technologies, what are the symbols that you will see in the teaching once this is actually done, once this actually happens? And second, how can you consult and offer consulting through computer?
Thank you. The question has to do with how will we know the effectiveness of these strategies, and the second part about consulting via computer. Who wants to take on the question here?
Well, I would address the first part of that question in terms of the evaluation of programs. Certainly you have to establish the criteria that you want that you're going to measure against in determining the success of a program. The actual symbols that you have, you will determine based upon your goals, the desired outcomes that you have, and then the criteria against which you want to measure. But it's going to be pretty much, I think, an idiosyncratic thing, depending upon, unique to each specific location.
And the question of consulting and computers, Bernie?
The signs of success, the symbols of success at using technology, it seems to me, would focus on not the teaching but the learning. If I look into a situation and I see that learners are talking with each other, that they are actively participating in their own learning, that seems to me a sign of success, and that the teacher is off to one side as the facilitator of that learning. One of the ways that the computer can be used to help the facilitator in that role is through the use of electronic mail. We're experimenting more and more here with courses in which between face-to-face sessions the instructor is available for questions. And we find that it takes up some more of our time, but it also takes care of large problems very quickly, and that a short answer to a question to a student who's befuddled at a moment will take care of a lot of business throughout a course.
We have a question now live from the Universidad Tecnológico de Tula-Tepeji in Tula-Tepeji, Hidalgo. Welcome.
How can you apply the multimedia for learning in small rural communities?
The question has to do with small rural communities and using the technologies. Who would like to address that?
Well,
Rick?
Yeah, I'll take a crack at that, Michael. I think that there are sort of two different ways to approach a problem like that. One is an independent, standalone type computer-based system, and another is a system that is connected via either low-speed or high-speed data links to allow the interaction that Bernie was just talking about via electronic mail and whatnot. But that is one of the main reasons for approaching telecommunications technologies, is to get that learning experience out to the rural areas, and I think that the strategies can be applied quite successfully.
We have a question now from Veracruz, the Instituto Tecnológico de Orizaba in Veracruz. Welcome.
What limitations would you have as far as subject matter, theoretical or practical, in order for implementing the instructional models?
Okay, that is a large and good question. Comments?
Well, let me take a crack at it. It seems to me that there are such a wide range of technologies available to us that just about any instructional problem can be addressed in some way. Theoretical problems, things at a high conceptual level, I think lend themselves to the constructivist approach that I was speaking of earlier, in that the content is ambiguous and not well structured. It means creating an environment in which the learner has an opportunity to pose questions and to sort of swim around in a lot of information. Whereas practical skills perhaps lend themselves more to direct instruction, a more traditional CBT approach in which you can see the steps of a procedure, play them back over and over again, and make sure that you get it right.
And we have a question from Chiapas, Telecomunicaciones Pemex in Cactus, Chiapas, Mexico. Welcome. Oh, this is a fax from Chiapas. The question has to do with the interesting topic of subliminal messages. They ask, as we all know, subliminal messages are not allowed, although constantly used in television ads. Could these subliminal messages be used in modern instructional technology as a way of anchoring concepts from very simple ones to math algorithms? Bernie, you want to tackle subliminals?
I'll try. Have you noticed that you have a craving for Coca-Cola right now? It's because we've been using that technology even as we speak. But seriously, I wouldn't call it subliminals, but there is a way to embed within both video and computer presentation of material some subtle aspects of the content that teach almost invisibly. For example, if you're trying to convey the fact that there is a large concept and it has smaller concepts within it, then visually you can have visual effects in which, to get to the smaller content, you iris open, the screen parts, and you go down into more levels of detail. That is something that the learner wouldn't consciously notice, but in a very subtle way, it helps convey the structure of the content. And I think that kind of thing is possible now on both computers and video instruction.
I'd like to comment about that just briefly.
Certainly.
It's not really subliminal per se, but certainly camera angles are factors. If you wanted to show a person as, for example, being powerful, you'd want to have a camera angle shooting up, and if you want to diminish their perceived power, you would have a camera angle shooting down, and so on. There are various techniques like that, which in a sense are not overt. They're covert devices, but one could do that. And in terms of the actual inclusion of subliminal messages, I would be very concerned about the ethics of that unless the participants were informed in advance that that was going to be a part of the instructional practice.
We have a question by fax from Monterrey. The Comisión Federal de Electricidad in Monterrey, Nuevo León, asks the very practical question, how can we overcome limited financial resources in order to update technology in a company?
Well, that, Michael, has everything to do with the system life cycle, actually, that I'll talk about in the next segment. System evolution and a clear plan for system evolution is very important. You can start with almost any budget, and providing you have a clear system evolution, system upgrade path that's based on real analysis of how successful the system is, you can start an instructional technology system with almost any budget.
Good. We have a question live from La Paz, Universidad Autónoma de Baja California Sur in La Paz. Welcome.
Good morning. The question is, when you implement teaching programs and electronic media and all of the educational institutions have the problem, number one problem, which is what is first, the egg or the hen? Do we first have to learn how to use technologies and media, or do we first have to teach in the sense of psychopedagogy? Thank you.
The question is the chicken and the egg. What comes first? There are probably many ways to answer this. What would you recommend?
Well, if you remember, I was defining technology earlier. One important component of technology is process. Let's not get enamored with hardware when we're talking about technology. That's an extremely important thing that we want to get to as we go along. But Bernie and I have both talked about, and I know that Rick is going to talk about, the whole idea of the focus on teaching and learning, the focus on what exactly the learning outcomes are. That's the place to start. Not enamored with machines, electronics, and so on. So I think if you start with what your purposes are, what your vision is of what the learners are going to be engaged, and as Bernie pointed out so well, actually engaging the learners, that's the critical thing. That's the critical beginning point.
I'd like to add also that the people aspect of this is important in terms of the actual teachers, that it's important to choose a target that will guarantee success, that you can seed this innovation by finding a place where it is likely to succeed. So find somebody who's ready to adopt this innovation, because we all learn from watching over each other's shoulders as adults. So find some place where the technology will work and know that other people will follow as your budget increases.
Yep, that's right.
We have a question from CECAP, Comisión Federal de Electricidad, CECAP Mexico DF. Welcome.
Yes, the question is the following. Based on the fact that the most important activity of man is to play, what relationship do you see between play and active education? Gracias por la pregunta.
Very good. I think that's one of the crucial elements of the new technology, in fact. Who wants to take that one up?
I'll take a crack at that. I love to play. So I think that that's an incredibly important piece. Not only play for play's sake, but sensory motivation, strategies that can, as you see in some of the briefings we've seen earlier, segments of videotape, graphics, audio, all those types of media can be used very readily to motivate the learners without a lot of difficulty using today's modern systems.
Play, anyone else?
Well, I have a 6-year-old son, and I have not noticed that learning to him is ever a problem or is ever painful, and yet he is sponging up everything, as anyone who has children knows. I think as adults we've forgotten that learning is fun inherently, and that instead we've imposed some different ideas on it, and I think we need to go back to looking at children and remembering what learning is really supposed to be about, and seeing how we can design that same sense into the training of adults.
We have many wonderful questions here today. The next one is from Mérida, from the Instituto Tecnológico de Mérida, Yucatan. Welcome.
We wanted to know if there is a software already available in order to apply instructional systems like CTB, or is there the database that we could create, or each institution could create, or where could we get that? If you can give us some more information about that, we would really appreciate it.
A very practical need, again, for sources of information. What would you suggest in response to that?
I think at this point, for electronic performance support systems, most things, there is no authoring tool that I'm aware of that is content-free. Most systems are being built from the ground up, so it requires having an authoring tool that will let you do that. So you have to essentially create your own. But there are enough examples around now, and there are conferences on this topic where you can learn more about this. The book by Gloria Geary that I mentioned on my last slide is a good source to begin with.
Anyone else want to suggest sources to turn to? There are references perhaps suggested through the support materials provided with this teleconference may lead you to places. There is a bibliography there as well. Moving from our questions now back to the next presentation, how do we develop effective system design for using technology in education and training? Mr. Richard Strobridge, president of Teleimages Incorporated, will explain system design and life cycles for us.
The most important part of implementing any training system is to remember who your customer is. Your customer is the learner, and the underlying purpose of adopting any new teaching and training model is to make a positive change in a learner. Also remember that technology is only a part of any successful implementation. Other parts being motivating the learner to learn, leadership by the technology implementer to his or her management, to show the management that the capital investment can reap some rewards, and thinking a little bit strategically about how this system is going to evolve. I would like to start with an analogy involving two personal computers I have purchased over the years. In 1984, when I purchased my first personal computer, it was an IBM PC. It came in many, many parts. The PC itself, the random access memory chips, the floppy drives, the internal modem, the display card, the monitor, the printer, and the software. And to collect all these pieces, I paid approximately $4,000. And then I spent the next 4 days assembling and configuring the system, loading the software, setting dip switches on the PC, and generally working quite hard to get it to do the things I wanted it to do. I did succeed, but it took me approximately 4 days to do that. I just recently purchased another personal computer. It's an Intel 486-based computer, 25 megahertz. It has 4 megabytes of RAM, so it has more than 6 times as much random access memory as the initial PC. It has an internal 120 megabyte hard drive. It's pen-based, and it uses a pen and can actually take and recognize handwriting input on the screen. The software was all included, and I paid approximately $1,250. Less than a third of what I paid for that initial IBM PC, and all I had to do was turn it on. Higher and higher levels of system integration apply not only to personal computers, but also to instructional systems. Purchasing training systems will be the same. It's moving in the same direction. Typical instructional delivery systems are comprised of a large number of independent parts, all of which must come together to fulfill the system's mission. A flexible instructional delivery system should be able to control and display television-style video, high-resolution color computer graphics, audio from videotapes, cassettes, and multimedia computers, computer network access, and room functions such as lighting and drapes. With these systems, users have the ability to access local and remote computer information, communicate with remote experts via audio and video, display and share graphics of two-dimensional and three-dimensional objects. Bringing all these types of media together contributes to the manager's ability to successfully complete their training missions. We don't have to go out and purchase all the parts and integrate the systems ourselves. There are people out there that can help us do that. In addition, we are seeing higher and higher levels of integration, making it easier and easier to implement these systems. For example, this system is an integrated desktop video system that comes out of the box and plugs into the wall and immediately gives the user access to worldwide video conferencing. The system incorporates a camera, monitor, audio system, control system, and network interface all in a single package. Integration at this level was unheard of just 5 years ago. What I have found over the years in working to complete several hundred installations is that successful training systems follow a definite system life cycle. This life cycle achieves a proper balance of technology, human factors, goal setting, and performance measurements. Only when critical attention is paid to each step of the system life cycle do learners achieve higher levels of interest and motivation through the enhanced sensory input provided by images and sound. This is the point at which learners, technology, and training objectives come together to reach a new level of performance. The system life cycle itself can be managed through 6 steps: design, integration, installation, training, operation and maintenance, and system evolution. These 6 steps truly cover a system life cycle because when you reach the 6th step, the system evolution step, the feedback you receive from your users becomes the input for new changes in the 1st step, the design step. You are comparing how the system is operating relative to your initial goals. Then, back in the design step, you implement changes that make the training system even more valuable to both the learner and the learner's organization. The first step in designing any instructional technology system is to define the goals of that system. What do you want the learner to get out of it? What does the organization get out of it? You perform requirements analysis, and from that requirements analysis, you can complete a high-level system design. Meaning, this is the technology that we feel is the best one that will suit our needs. Whether it be video conferencing, or LaserDisc, or computer-based training, or whatever. Once you have that high-level design in place, it's a necessity to go back and seek feedback from potential users of the system, and to see whether they feel this is the technology that's right for them. This is all done on paper before any pieces of equipment are actually procured. After design comes the integration step. Whether the integration is being done in-house, or whether a video system integrator or other instructional technology integrator is hired to do the integration, this step applies. You need to complete a detailed system design, complete an implementation schedule so that all parties involved know what the schedule for implementation for the system is, and to define the responsibilities for the participants. You will also need to complete some initial documentation that shows in a more detailed fashion what exactly is going to be implemented and how it is going to be implemented. For example, Jostens Learning Corporation needed a corporate demonstration, testing, and training center for their CD-ROM-based instructional system. Jostens Learning Corporation is a market leader in computer-based training for elementary and secondary schools. Teleimage's solution to that problem was to design and install a multimedia demonstration and training facility. Jostens uses various types of personal computers for both DOS and Macintosh computers, along with standalone CD-ROM drives. From those devices, Jostens provides courseware to interactively train students. Their problem was how to train their potential customers, how to train their new employees on this new technology, and to bring it all together in one place. What Jostens did was to integrate a multi-PC local area network based on Ethernet, the high-speed standard in local networking, and then tied that network into a sophisticated presentation audio and video system. This solution was selected because it allows any of the 20 or so personal computers in the room to be easily displayed on the large screen, allowing the instructor or presenter to make points and give examples of Jostens software screens and audio clips in a visually exciting way. This system design provided Jostens with a center that cost-effectively puts all of Jostens software products at the presenter's fingertips. It is a cost-effective system because it is a multi-use system, allowing demonstrations, testing of new software products, and training of new and existing employees. The next step is installation. Installation can be one of the most challenging steps in the system life cycle. The installation step is where all the parties involved in integrating the training system come together in one place. In many cases, these parties include not only internal departments, such as facilities, information systems, and security, but also outside contractors, such as architects, carpenters, electricians, phone company technicians, and the integrator's own personnel, possibly including satellite and microwave technicians, sound system technicians, programmers, and cable installers. In addition to gaining access to the installation location at the proper times and coordinating the internal and external parties involved, it is important to perform frequent quality control checks. These checks should be performed as each portion of the work is completed. Subsystem testing allows you to verify that individual pieces of hardware are performing as expected. Verifying these components helps to avoid surprises when all the subsystems come together for final testing. Teleimage has had some interesting issues to contend with at a recent installation at California Polytechnic University, Cal Poly. Cal Poly's problem was how to provide geographically remote agricultural technology students with core courses without forcing them to commute to the main campus. Teleimage's solution was to provide a roll-about video conferencing system at this remote ranch north of Santa Cruz, California. Because of the remote nature of this installation, one of our biggest problems was to find the ranch in the first place. Once we found the ranch, we had to be sure the telephone lines had been properly tested, adequate power was available, and the site was suitable for installation of sensitive telecommunications equipment of this type. This roll-about video conferencing system included dual 27-inch color monitors for displaying motion video of the remote instructor and the instructor's graphics, a camera and pan tilt unit for transmitting video of the students to the instructor's site, microphones, and other hardware. Central to the system's capabilities is the video codec, coder-decoder. This is the device that digitizes and compresses the video, audio, and graphics for transmission over high-speed phone lines. The fourth step in the system life cycle is training. Training is performed after final acceptance testing. Final acceptance testing usually involves both users and operators to verify that each of the system capabilities agreed upon in the design phase is available and functioning properly. Once acceptance testing is complete, training can begin. Thorough training is crucial. The training step should always include training for not only system operators, but also training for managers, users, and instructors. The goal is to train these people to the point where they forget about the technology and concentrate on using the technology to perform the learning and teaching function. The best way I've found to accomplish this is to give enough technical detail on how the system works to allow users to think of the training system as an extension of traditional teaching methods. They should understand the different system capabilities so that these capabilities can be used successfully. For example, users should know when they can play videotapes, hook a computer into the system, and search and browse through databases of information. At the Center for Creative Leadership, they needed to provide individualized feedback to students being trained in a group environment over several time-separated sessions. The Center for Creative Leadership has locations around the U.S. and in Brussels. Learners come to their facilities and do role-playing and leadership analogies. They then go back to their normal jobs within their organizations, apply what they have learned, and then come back to the center for additional training sessions, and to give feedback in terms of what they have learned in a real-world situation. The solution to their problem was to design and integrate an instructional delivery system which met the objectives of being able to give learners reinforcement in these time-separated sessions. These are the role-playing rooms at the Center for Creative Leadership. The rooms include a video camera and pan tilt for recording role-playing sessions, a monitor for tape playback, and microphones for audio pickup. The system operators sit behind the one-way mirror you see on the left-hand side, and the trainees are taped both on video and audio tape as they role-play in an actual leadership training scenario. The operator sits in the other room on the other side of the one-way mirror. This configuration keeps the operator out of the learning environment so that participants can interact in a more natural fashion without relying on the operator's input. What the operator can do is see and hear the trainee in a role-playing situation and record on audio cassette individual comments to each trainee. The audio system is designed so that each trainee has a dedicated cassette recorder. This allows the instructor to make individualized comments, and each trainee walks away from the training session with an individualized audio cassette which reinforces their positive leadership behavior. Once a trainee gets back in their corporate organizational environment, he or she can use the audio cassette to reinforce what has been learned and to listen to the comments of the instructor. Later, the students come back to the Center for Creative Leadership for further reinforcement and training. The goal was to give individual feedback to trainees and reinforcement via this audio cassette when they were not actually at the training center. The fifth step in the system life cycle is operation and maintenance. Besides the traditional requirements of the operation and maintenance function, new technologies require that system operators provide a highly developed customer service function. Providing this customer service function makes it easy for both instructors and learners to interact with the system. The customer service function also involves system marketing. Human nature generally dictates that potential users will avoid a new technology until they've been made to feel comfortable with that technology. So in addition to keeping the system up and running and accurately assessing the performance of the physical pieces of equipment, the operation and maintenance step also involves determining the user's performance and interaction with the system. The last step in the system life cycle is system evolution. System evolution involves gaining feedback from all the parties involved with the system, the operators, the users, and the managers. Compare that feedback and that performance for the system versus the initial goals that were set down in the initial design stage. The system evolution step involves a cost-benefit analysis. The cost-benefit analysis is similar to a corporation's balance sheet. We look at the value of the assets, the value of the benefits received from operating the system, both quantitative and qualitative benefits, and then compare that value to the costs of the system, including depreciation, salaries, and opportunity costs. If the return on investment is positive and sufficient, then the system should remain in operation, but should evolve to incorporate new ideas and new technology. If the return on investment is negative, a hard look should be taken at the reasons for this, and then a determination must be made as to whether to modify the system to achieve a positive return or to abandon the system. Fortunately, not too many training systems are being abandoned these days. In fact, the implementation of training systems is growing rapidly in the U.S. and around the world. PictureTel, one of the video conferencing industry's largest manufacturers, reported that it shipped 4,500 units in 1993, up from 3,100 units in 1992. In the past, this cost of this type of technology was limited only to the government and large corporations. Today, this technology in various forms is available for a cost which makes it applicable to all sizes and types of organizations. And this trend will continue into the future. Let's take a few minutes to talk about future technology developments and their potential effects on the training system life cycle. I brought with me today the touch control panel from a product called the Smart Rack. The Smart Rack is an integrated video conferencing and multimedia system applicable to many training applications. This touch panel replaces multiple remote controllers for VCRs, televisions, audio systems, and other devices. The touch panel gives the operator centralized control of up to 255 different devices while keeping the number of buttons the operator can see at any given time to a minimum. Showing the operator only the functions he needs at any given time simplifies system operation, as you can see. Other technologies that are developing very rapidly are things like wireless computing, where training and information can be transmitted to the students via wireless methods, so the students now have mobility. They are not tied to their desk or to a particular classroom. The more technology allows the students to meet learning on their own terms, at home, at work, at various times, the more successful training systems will be. Pen-based computing and personal digital assistants are new technologies that also deserve some attention. These devices incorporate handwriting recognition and powerful computers in small, portable packages. Let's take a look at one I brought with me. The pen-based computer is as powerful as any desktop machine, has both a detachable keyboard and a pen as input devices, and runs all PC-based software and does handwriting recognition. I think the effect on training systems will be that we will soon be carrying around our instructional systems with us, and we will use those systems whenever and wherever we see fit. Another exciting technology which is evolving at a rapid pace is virtual reality. Virtual reality will have multiple applications for training. It will be interesting to see how virtual reality is ultimately used in training. It's the total immersion concept, where students are actually within the environment which they are learning about. This is accomplished through the use of a video hood which the learner wears and a specialized glove the learner uses for input and control. For example, virtual reality could allow a nuclear power plant operator to step into an artificial control room and learn from a safe distance how to operate a nuclear reactor.